Okay, spoiler alert time. The ending, right, with Dr. Eggman, like it looks like
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Sonic 3 officially out today. And so by the time this interview comes out, we can talk about spoilers and all that. And so people won't be like, "Oh no, no," because I think I like mentioned something and they're like, "Hey, no spoilers, no spoilers." So people are like very cautious about spoilers for this movie.
As they should be. There's some big surprises in store.
Well, but
Yeah.
and also if you know if you're the film going public who doesn't know the games, then I imagine there's a lot of things that can be spoiled. A
That's
little bit
true.
less if you're a big Shadow storyline fan, but
Oh yeah, yeah, because this movie is very heavy on the Shadow storyline, but also Dr. Eggman and his story. And I guess I don't know if I want to start on the spoilers yet, like, but we can start off like this is the inspiration for the story because there's each movie, like part one, two, and three. You guys are always setting something up, teasing people on the future, and it gets everyone excited. Uh, so how I don't know, like how hard is it like each time? Because like part one, it's like, all right, let's tease Tails, and then part two, and then it's like it's always like a step by step instead of like just throwing everything at people.
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
I
it's
mean,
like each one is its own challenge, but definitely we want to give each character introduced like time to shine in their own movie. We don't want to just have a character who's just like hello and immediately gets shoved off to the side to become window dressing because the characters are also good. They deserve the proper amount of screen time and respect, you know. Uh,
and I think this was not pre-planned in any way, but when I look back at the sequels, because when you're working on the story phase, the movie always starts out kind of huge, and then you kind of slowly whittle it down to figure out what's doable. And with both two and three, it was kind of determined that being able to appropriately address two characters works. In two, it was Tails and Knuckles. In three, it's Shadow and Gerald, is kind of uh, giving everything room to breathe.
Certainly, some other trilogies in the past have perhaps gotten a little too ambitious with movie three and had a million characters, and it's all fallen apart. We were all aware of the potential
Yeah,
pitfalls of
the
a.
part three curse, as we can call it.
Yeah, so how do you yeah, like the previous like other trilogies, right? The threes usually not good, but sometimes it could be good. Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings, Return of the King, great. So
but in
what
my
are the
mind,
movies
Lord of the
that
Rings is just one big long movie that they chopped into three
that's true.
pieces. But
That is true. That's fair, that's fair. But yeah, what are like some inspirations on like what movies like, all right, let's not do this, let's do this. This threequel did a great job. This one did not.
I mean, it's so hard, because no one's trying to make a bad movie. So if anything, it's hard to truly learn lessons other than you just try to make it good. I think going into three, the fact that we knew we were telling the Shadow storyline, at least for this franchise, that felt really like a new thing to add because it was so unlike anything that had happened. Because other franchises, more the problem. It's like, what else do we do now once you hit part three? And that's why sometimes they overcomplicate things by just jamming in too many characters. But
And the ones that have worked, yeah, like Lord of the Rings, it's from a book, or Harry Potter 3, The Prisoner of Azkaban, which is when the series of movies really got good, was getting a little more mature, going a little darker, which was sort of inherent to this movie too by bringing Shadow in. It's like our audience, kids and kids of all ages are they're growing up and the movies are growing up with them a little bit, although it's still good for kids.
Yeah. And okay, let's say crafting these stories, right, with these characters, what is it like for you coming up with the ideas? Do you already like remember like, oh, this is Shadow and Maria, or do you replay, or do you read comic books? Because there's so many different Sonic media out there.
yeah, I mean, we replay the games a little bit, but it's also funny because it's like, especially the Genesis games, we played so much as kids that you almost don't need to replay them. Like it's all living rent free in the back of our heads anyway. I mean, I do think for us, the way we fit in, especially to the kind of early story phase, and I think it works well, is that we don't consider ourselves the like Sonic experts, like Tyson Hass in particular. Um, his involvement in the franchise. It's kind of like there's the story out there and it's being presented to us, and we try to help kind of come at it more from the non-fan perspective, which is not to say we're not fans, but if you get what I'm saying, like just for people who don't know anything about this, what's just the movie here? And then we kind of let other people, especially Sega, be like, well, no, this detail is really important. Like this has to happen. So we just have to figure out how to make that work into the story.
But we're definitely like, yeah, it's our job to really think about like how do we turn this into the shape of a movie to have like movie like impact, movie moments, make the general audience get on board and like feel real feelings about these wild characters, um, and bring along the fans for the ride. It's like the movies are for general audiences and the fans, not just the fans, but if we lost the fans, then we've failed as well. So it's like we've got kind of both audiences in our minds at all time.
Well, and three movies in, it's always a nice place to feel like, well, if we give the fans what they want, even though the regular audience doesn't realize it, we're giving them what they want too. Because the movies just become, each one has become even more like meshed with kind of what fans want.
It is funny though
Yeah.
seeing movies with a crowd because it's like when certain things will happen from the game and then parts of the crowd will just erupt and then you see like, people's grandmas being like, what just
Yeah.
this must be a thing. And people seem pretty excited about this.
I love it, especially anytime like I feel like our parents or whoever go see the movies, and it's like, who's that character at the end that everyone was screaming about?
Yeah, but it's cool because like once they see the crowd reaction, they're like, now I want to know more about it, and then they
Yeah,
become excited, and then the next movie, then they'll be part of the crowd.
Hmm.
get to immediately
And
Google it as you're leaving the theater.
yeah, and then with Sonic 3, there's a lot of references because the previous Sonic games, different references, whether it's from the Sonic games or even from outside stuff from TV shows, from anime. For like the biggest one is the Akira reference with Shadow and the bike. So whose idea was it for that one? And
I mean,
how
I
did
think
that come
that was
about?
all Jeff. I feel like he kind of came in. I mean, Jeff always has a couple like set piece ideas that he's already been thinking about before the story process ever begins. And usually those like stay in the movie throughout the whole thing. And one was that he was like, I feel like because he's touring the world promoting the first two movies, and he went to Tokyo, and I think he was like, we gotta have Tokyo um, in part three, and Shadow should have a big fight in Tokyo with Gun and our heroes. And then it's like, well, he's Shadow, so he's got to get on a motorcycle. And I feel like Jeff was like, well, he's got to do the Akira slide somewhere in there.
We were like, you got it, boss.
Yeah.
Going in.
Was there anything like your favorite references, Easter eggs that you implemented? Like, okay, this is, I want this, and people's gonna love it, and let's hope it goes great.
What I was just thinking about watching the movie again last night, that it was one of those things that we put in there, and then we couldn't even remember. Is like, wait, is that lore, or did we make that up? Was the idea that Knuckles is afraid of ghosts? And then I confirmed we did not make it up. We like saw
Somehow we
that,
picked up that piece of lore and thought it was funny.
even though
Stuck
it's like
it
not
in. They stayed in the
really.
movie the whole time, and
Yeah,
now
even though I believe that's kind of like
real lore.
extrapolated lore, like he like made a comment in one of the games by it, but fans just love the idea that this big tough guy is afraid of ghosts. So that was fun to just drop in there. And then they expanded upon it even more by adding in the like Casper clip, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, and then the other references, there's the Chow Garden. Uh, Instead of like having, I was like, how are they gonna put Chow like in this? And it's like a store. It's like a like kind of like a coffee shop.
It's like I mean, I was gonna say like a Chuck E. Cheese, but I suppose in Chuck E. Cheese they're not people in suits. They're robots that come to life and kill people at night. If Five Nights at Freddy's is to be believed, right?
No, but that was another one where at some point, trying to think of like where they can go after the fight to get info on Shadow's backstory. And that was like another thing of Jeff having gone to Tokyo to promote the first ones. He's like, they've got these like cool restaurants where people are just walking around in big costumes. And then at some point, the idea of like, wait, Is that how we can get Chows in the franchise?
And with the movie, like the main, you got Shadow and Dr. Eggman. So what was that like? Just the focusing the shift from, let's say, the heroes to the villains. Like, is it, you know how they say, villains are more fun? Is that the case here?
I mean, especially when you still got Jim Carrey involved, and now there's two. Yeah, I mean, I think when you watch the finished movie, hopefully you don't sense this at all. But when talking about breaking the story, obviously knowing we had to get Shadow right, there was definitely that feeling at some point of like, oh, we got to make sure like Sonic has enough to do in this movie because the Team Dark stuff was becoming so rich of just the relationship between Ivo and Gerald and where Agent Stone fits into that. Um, it was just that was the like real fun stuff. I think from a writing perspective,
We were also excited about, getting Robotnik, the
team
short
up,
team
yeah,
up between Team Dark and Team Sonic, which was a lot of fun. And like we had almost tried to concoct a reason why Robotnik and Sonic would have to work together in Sonic 2. And like we knew we wanted to get to it eventually, even though some people were like, how could Sonic ever work with Dr. Robotnik? To which we were like, I mean,
yeah,
Doctor
want
Doom.
to,
Doctor
yeah,
Doom will work with the Fantastic Four whenever the whole Earth is threatened. He'll
exactly. When
help
there's
them
a
save the
bigger threat
planet, and then he turns
involved,
right back into a giant jerk.
yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of emotional moments with this movie, and I think with Shadow Story, I don't know what the limits are with like, okay, how dark can we go with this? Because it deals with like the loss of a loved one.
I mean, honestly, they Jeff went even darker with it than I think we thought he would, because there was a lot of talk about like how much backstory can we show. Maria has to die because that's what makes Shadow and Gerald, who they are in the present. But
Yeah, a version of this story where Maria doesn't die. I mean, it would be doing the story of Batman, but where the Waynes never got shot. Like it's
yeah,
an essential part of the
but it was
character.
like, everyone wanted the movie to be PG. So it was definitely like, well, how much of this can we present? And I feel like when we saw the finished version and just how grim some of the like imagery is of, people leaning over her on the ground and stuff. I mean, I was like, yeah, like they,
I mean,
they
and
fully went
Lila
for
Brown
it.
is terrific as Maria.
Yeah.
I love her. She was so good in Furiosa, which is a fantastic movie, by the way.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah,
Hey, Pat,
really
we're still
excited to
big
get
Sonic
her in this
movie
one.
3. People can watch Furiosa on their own time.
yeah. And then okay, spoiler alert time. The ending, right, with Dr. Eggman, like it looks like he's gone. But and there's always like talks about whether Jim Carrey would come back or he's retiring or whatever people are saying. So what is your take on that? And like, is this the
I
end?
mean,
We'll get to
I
see
don't think
more.
it's giving anything away to say that. Yes, I think that give an ending where if he doesn't come back, you feel satisfied, but we're not like we didn't show his head get chopped off. So, who knows what could happen in the future?
But we definitely knew that there was a possibility this was his last movie, and we wanted to give him a satisfying conclusion and a great send off. And I think we accomplished that. I mean, I thought like he's terrific in this movie. Ivo gets a great arc, and he's definitely, definitely, definitely dead unless
Unless
Jim
he's
wants to come
not.
back,
Yeah.
in which case he
And then you come
escapes
up with like,
somehow.
wait a second, you'll find a way, right? And then because at the end credits, they do tease like the return of Shadow, and so people's gonna think like, oh, they showed the Shadow stuff, but not Jim Carrey. So he's gonna be talking.
Yeah, I mean, Robotnik is such a great character, and Jim's so awesome at it that I think anyone would hope that if they make 10 more Sonic movies, hopefully Eggman could get back in there.
Yeah,
Oh
at
yeah.
some point, maybe the next one, maybe not the next one. Jim is notoriously unpredictable, so we're not going to try and predict what Jim
Okay.
Carrey's going to
For
do. We're just going to
for
sit
sure.
back and watch and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and yeah, speaking of Jim and your projects, like you reports are like you guys are working on Ace Ventura 3, right? And I don't
Oh,
know if there's anything.
that's a classic press reporting on a thing that was only like a kernel of
There's a
reality. I think the truth is Jim normally doesn't like doing sequels, so we felt very
uh
honored that he's done 3 Sonic movies. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, Ace was a thing that was discussed, and I think the studios really want it to happen. I think if Jim ever wanted to do it, they'd bend over backwards to make it happen. But yeah, at the moment, that's not really a thing.
Until you guys create like something like, hey, look at this, read
Yeah,
it, and it'll be like, all right, we're on board.
You got to
cinematic
print it in
gold.
golden ink. That's the way he likes it.
And then okay, after this, Sonic 3, what are you guys gonna be working on? Like Sonic 4? Because I'm pretty sure the end credits is teasing like, yeah, it's continuing, it's not gonna stop, especially uh at the end with Amy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Fortunately, we can't really comment on four, or we will go the way of Maria. I mean, for us
No.
right now, yeah, right now our main focus is actually Violent Night 2 sequel to our Santa movie.
Which
Yeah. So
don't
okay,
really
yeah.
have anything official to announce at the moment, but hopefully we will soon. So stay tuned.
David Harbour is a busy man,
Yeah. But
Oh yeah.
hang your stockings with care. It's coming at some point.
or seasons beatings.
But yeah, I think that's all the time I have. But I just want to say, yeah, can't wait
Okay.
for Violent Night 2. Hope I'm gonna give you ideas right now. You can take it or leave it. Just make it a whole big, epic Home Alone sequence in New York.
we'll we'll see.
Yeah, let us know if you
Forget
have
what
any
I
good
said.
violent Christmas puns. We're always collecting
Yeah, yeah,
them.
we need as
Oh
many
yeah, yeah, for
Christmas
sure,
puns
for
as
sure.
possible.
All right. Well, yeah. Josh, Pat, it's a pleasure chatting with you. And I'm pretty sure, this movie's out today. People's gonna love it. They're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna make a lot of money. And I think it's gonna beat the other movie I won't name.
Oh,
That
thanks, John.
he who must
All
not
right.
be named.
All right. Take
All
care.
right, good
Bye-bye.
chat with you.